Hello, everyone. Welcome to Election Time News. This is a new channel that aims to be the best overall consolidator of all election predictors, polls, and everything else you may need to know about any upcoming election. I'll mainly be focusing on presidential or Senate elections, and will dabble a bit into gubernatorial elections, but I'll most likely stay away from House elections, at least for the near future, as they're not polled much and are so complicated and vary so much from simple demographic data. I'm a high schooler from Pennsylvania, and I'm here to show that anyone interested in politics can achieve what they dream of and also learn more about the political landscape that we live in today in America. Now, with our first introductions out of the way, today is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, and we have entered the home stretch of the presidential election. Now, today I'm just going to be focusing on the presidential election. I will be getting to a Senate election video soon. Sorry about the mic quality, I'm just using headphones. So today, generally, basically, I'm going to be doing a forecast just from today based off of polling data. Today, I'm generally just using DDHQ and The Hill, and I will be using more sources in the future. And I will also be using some information from past results from some states as well. So this is just for today. This includes predictions for tilt states. So this is just how I think things will go based off of previous voting patterns, which I have on Jackson Jude here. So to start with the safe states, these are states that are basically guaranteed to go for either candidate, no matter what. We have Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Colorado, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Maine's 1st congressional district. Maine and Nebraska split up their congressional districts. Now for Donald Trump, we have North and South Dakota, Nebraska's 3rd and 1st districts and the statewide contest, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Alaska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. Now, some of you may ask why I didn't put Iowa and Ohio in there, and that's just because as of right now we've seen large jumps towards Harris, but most likely I will upgrade them back to safe very soon. But they are just barely going to go into likely, and I will go into why later. First, we're going to do the likely states for the Harris and Walz camp. We have New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Maine. Now, many people put New Hampshire in the lean category, but I personally put it as likely, as it seems to be almost a Democratic equivalent of North Carolina, as during a popular year, 2000, it did just barely flip to the other candidate. However, it has showed signs continually of maybe flipping. However, it has stayed consistently Democratic since it did flip by 1.3 points in 2000. So I think that it will be a likely state for the Democrats, and it can be expected for a 4 electoral vote count added to the Harris-Walz corner. Basically the same thing for Maine, and also going over to Polymarket here, we have 85% chance of Harris winning in Maine and 83% chance in winning in New Hampshire, which are both very good odds as far as that is concerned. Now moving over to New Mexico. Some people are saying that this could potentially be lean. No one's really saying that it will flip anymore after Joe Biden dropped out. However, it still has been giving a rightward trend, as it's going from 15 to 11 to 9 points, and then 9 points again in 2020, even though Joe Biden got 3 points more of the popular vote than Hillary Clinton did, which means that New Mexico shifted in respect to the nation 3 points to the right. If we scroll down here, we can see that there's 27% of the population has a bachelor's degree, which is one of the lowest in the country, and generally lower educated populations tend to vote Republican. As this is getting larger and larger divide across the country, this will affect it more and more. However, we're seeing less median income, which typically is a more Democratic attribute, and a higher non-white population. However, due to Democrats losing support from the Hispanic camp, which is the majority in the state of New Mexico, this will definitely continue to see trends to the right in this state. All the major party shifts are very leftward-leaning counties, moving over 10 points to the right, which is definitely going to continue to propel the rightward movement of the state of New Mexico. However, I don't see it flipping anytime soon. The state of Virginia is next. Now, Minnesota, it generally is going to stay very securely Democrat. It has the longest running streak of voting Democrat, as it is the only state that voted blue in 1984 with the Reagan sweep, and since then has generally stayed relatively close, but it has consistently voted Democrat, almost voted Republican in 2016, and right before Biden dropped out, it looked like it might even go red. However, the polls have now shown that Harris has stopped the leaking of the gains that he had made in 2020, where he won it by 7 points, which is 3 points leftward shift from 2016 in respect to the nation. So it appears that it's going to be absolutely secured, and on Polymarket there is a 92% chance that Harris is going to win Tim Walz's home state, where he is currently governor. Now moving on to Virginia, looking at the overall polling averages, they're actually surprisingly low, with only a 3-point lead for Harris, according to DDHQ in the Hill, based on 7 polls. However, they are consistently +3 for Harris, so it's not any back and forth. We have a +1 for Trump from Florida Atlantic University. That was conducted in mid-July, but all the recent ones are +3 and Harris, +2 Harris. So most of this is relatively low, even though Biden managed to actually win the state by the first double-digit margin since FDR for the Democrats, 10.1 points. But I don't think that it actually will be enough to flip it, and neither does Polymarket, giving Harris an 85% chance of winning the state. Now, flipping over to the likely states for the Trump-Vance camp. We have Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and Texas. So, starting off in Ohio, we've seen a rightward shift relatively dramatically. In 2008, it voted 5 points for Obama, and then in 2012 by 3 points. Then in 2016, it voted 9 points for Donald Trump. That is a 12-point shift to the right, one of the largest in the nation. And then again, it voted 9 points on the dot, meaning that it shifted 3 points to the right in respect to the nation from 2016 to 2020, meaning that it is solidly going to become a Republican state. Now, again, as I said, this is likely right now, but I'm probably going to upgrade it to safe as we get closer to Election Day if we're not seeing more dramatic poll changes from the state, as we're seeing almost 10-point leads for Donald Trump in the state of Ohio. Then its almost sibling state of Iowa went 10 points for Trump in 2016 after going 6 and 10 points for Obama, and it only went 8 points for Donald Trump in 2020. However, it still is very securely in the Republican camp, and there's very little chance that we're going to be seeing it flip, as Polymarket has it as a 94% chance to go for Trump. The state of Texas. Now, this is a left-trending state. However, it doesn't look like it's going to have moved left enough to flip again, even though there have been hopes of a blue Texas as far back as 2016. I don't think there will be enough because of the loss of the Hispanic vote in the Rio Grande Valley, as we've seen here with most of these some of these blue counties flipping red. Those are red counties flipping blue, my bad. Kennedy County, Reeves County, some of these counties, especially these El Paso County, Dimmitt County, Webb County, most of these southern counties in the Rio Grande Valley that have shifted very hard to the right, counteracting the very large suburban areas outside of Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston that have shifted very hard to the left, bringing the state from an R+12, R+16 state to just barely at are plus 5.6, even though some pollsters showed it as a toss-up going into election night in 2020, and I'm going by almost 6 points to Donald Trump. So I don't see it actually flipping anytime soon, perhaps 2028, maybe 2032. Now, looking into the state of Florida, it has basically shifted hard right as well as far as amount of people goes, but it's consistently been trending to the right by basically 2 points every single election, regardless of how far the nation moves from point Obama by 3 to Obama by 1, and then went by 1 point to Trump in 2016, and then in 2020 it went to Trump by 3.4 points. One of few states that he actually increased his margin of victory in, and it's due to the loss of the Hispanic vote, as well as overall just a change in the demographics, as I believe the amount of people with bachelor's degree is dropping and the median income is increasing, if I'm correct. Now, these are also the major shifts here. Miami-Dade County moved by 23 points to the right. That is definitely going to be a huge impact on the overability, as it has a large majority of the population of Florida. It has one of the highest populations of any of these counties, and we may even see it actually go red. The county go red for the first time in a few decades this time around. But I don't see Harris being able to pull the state, and I think that she's even basically given up on campaigning in the state itself. Polymarket has Trump with an 83% chance of winning Florida, an 88% chance of winning Texas. Now moving on to lean states. Likely is Maine's second congressional district. Lean states, I just have North Carolina for Donald Trump, and I also have Nebraska's second congressional district and Michigan for Harris. Now we're going to be looking at Michigan. If you look at the polls here, Harris has a relatively comfortable 1.6% lead. Now this is a bit less than might be expected, especially looking at the results from 2020, as Biden won the state by 2.8 points. Almost double at what now Harris is looking at, but she's consistently been ahead by a small amount in the recent polls, except for one by Trafalgar Group, which had Trump up by 0.4 of a point. But she's consistently been in the lead since Joe Biden dropped out in mid-July. And I think that if she is to win any state that's truly toss-up here, it's going to be Michigan. Polymarket has her with a 59% chance of winning, just under 60%. I believe that even just dropped in the past few hours. Now, next up is going to be, we're looking at North Carolina. North Carolina's polls have a tie. Now, the recent ones, I believe there's been no victories for Harris since the end of the 2 weeks ago, and the last 3 polls are all good looking for Trump. And generally, we even saw Biden leading by 2 points at the end of the polling season in 2020, yet he still lost the state by a point, which is the closest that it's been since Obama actually won it in 2008. So I don't believe that it's actually going to flip. I think it's going to be relatively close, though. It's going to be within 2 points, I think, but not even as close as Biden got. Now, for the pure toss-up states here. Going in order from smallest. All right, going in order here, we're going to just be going in order from the margins that I think they're going to go in on election day. I think the largest margin here is going to be probably about 1.5 points to 1 point or so for Georgia to the Trump camp. Now, this one has been pretty close. It was 0.2 of a point, the closest one in 2020, just barely flipping it. It's been relatively consistently Republican for a long time. And this is mainly due to the diversification and growth of the Atlanta area and a lot of black voters showing up to vote. Major party shifts, most of them, almost all of these major party shifts are hard to the left, including some relatively red counties. Almost two out of 3 votes are going to be for Trump, and it moved 12 points to the left, 16 points to the left. So a lot of these very hard leftward shifts. But I think that even though Harris is going to probably retain most of the black enthusiasm to get this vote in the Atlanta area, enough of the enraged, enough of the anti-Trump population will actually go out and vote Trump again in the rural areas to show up and then flip the state back. Next up is going to be looking at the polls for Georgia. Harris has a 0.4 of a point lead, which isn't all that large. I think that that would need to be up closer to about 1.5 points to consider it actually truly being a toss-up. Arizona and Polymarket also has Trump with a 58% lead chance of winning, which is tied with Arizona for the highest chance he has of winning any state that's other than North Carolina. Arizona, the second closest state, 0.3 of a point, also shifted very hard to the left, mainly due to the growth of Maricopa County, which went blue for the first time in a long time. Santa Cruz County shifted 14 points. Now, Maricopa County is very large. Phoenix is the fastest growing city in the entire country. And so I think that actually, based on the reinstatement of the abortion ban from an ancient law in Arizona, and also the continual growth of Maricopa County, we're going to see Arizona go blue again. I've had this hunch for a long time, and even Polymarket thinks that it's going to go red, as most predictors do, but I have a feeling that it's actually going to shift around and go blue. Now, based on this, we've seen Harris with a 0.1 of a point lead. She's been a bit ahead for the past week and a half or so. She hasn't had any good ones, which this is making me question. I think I might change it to toss-up by the next time. But this one by Emerson College by +4 Trump. That's a big flag that this might flip back. But as of right now, I am still going to leave it here, as I don't want to put any toss-ups on this map. Next up is going to be Nevada. Harris has a 0.6 of a point lead. However, personally, I do think that it actually will flip red, because it is a very low educated percentage, even less than New Mexico, and it has continually shifted by up to 3 points every single election. It went for Clinton by 2.4 points in 2016, and then it went by 2.4 points for Biden in 2020. And since he gained 3 points more, that means that it shifted 3 points to the right in respect to the nation. So I have a feeling that this is actually going to flip to the Republican column, which means that Harris needs to win both of these states, which I actually say she will. I'm calling that she will win Pennsylvania by probably about just over a point, and Wisconsin by about 0.8 of a point. Polymarket has Wisconsin 56% chance for Harris, and Pennsylvania 52% for Trump. Harris was in the lead about a week ago, so it is very close in Pennsylvania. And yet the polling for both of them, Wisconsin 3.4 point lead. This looks very healthy for Harris, even as 2 Trump +1 polls have come in, even though one was from the Trafalgar Group. And we've seen these sorts of very large gaps going into election night, and then it was much closer. However, I think that polling has improved in the recent years, learning from our mistakes from 2016 and 2020 especially. And I think this is actually a good signifier that Harris will indeed actually win the state of Wisconsin. Now, Pennsylvania, this is a 7/10 of a point lead, and I think that she will manage to get enough out of the Philadelphia area in order to manage to overcome the rural vote that's going to come back out in support of Trump. And I think that enough of the once enthusiastic Trump base has weakened overall. And even though we haven't had the last three haven't been positive for Harris, we have a +4, tie +2 for Harris. So most of the polls are going to look a bit down for Harris, which is probably why her chances on Polymarket have turned around. But I do personally, as far as things go right now, I do see Vice President Harris winning the election in November. And again, I'm really close to upgrading these two to safe for Trump and dropping this to a pure toss-up because of how close they are. But if I had to guess, this is what I would say based off of the information that I've seen. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope to see you soon. I'll be making a Senate prediction video in the very near future. Have a great day.